Welcome to Habitat Makers, a video series about people and communities who are creating biodiverse habitat. In this episode, we'll be talking to homeowners who have transformed their yard into a very rich biodiverse habitat. Here we are in Eden Prairie, Minnesota at Marilynn and Tom's garden. We'll be talking to Marilynn Torkelson today. Welcome, Marilynn.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So I look at your garden here. It's beautiful. It's biodiverse. There's lots of pollinator activity, bumblebees, butterflies, and it's full of life. And I look and I just see lawn after lawn after lawn. What was this place like before when you bought it? What was it like?
Our place was exactly the same as every other house on the street, with lots of turf grass and lots of non-native plantings like lilacs and spireas.
And how did you get the idea to transform your yard?
I took a rain garden class in 2010 and just was blown away about the benefits of native plants, especially for water quality. And I found out a really astonishing fact that our native plants are disappearing. In rural areas, they're crowded out by agriculture, and in our urban and suburban parks, they're crowded out by non-native invasives like buckthorn and garlic mustard.
So you think the individual homeowner has a role to play in the overall ecosystem?
Absolutely. If we want to enjoy the appearance of butterflies fluttering around the garden and birds singing in the yards, we need the insects for them to survive. Without the native plants, the herbivore insects have nothing to eat. And without the herbivore insects, then you're starving out the amphibians and the reptiles and those birds.
So when you look at a traditional lawn, not much biological activity going on there, right?
I see a food desert. It's what I see, and turf grass is shallow rooted and takes a lot of maintenance, a lot of chemicals and supplemental watering to keep it looking nice. And it's a food desert. It does not absorb water. It contributes to water pollution, in fact.
How about some of the challenges that you've encountered?
So, as a traditional garden, you're taught more neat and tidy. I planted things in back that were tall, and native plants like to reseed and move around freely throughout your garden. So I had to give up that idea of a manicured look and learn to embrace the wild side.
So this is where it all began, in your rain garden, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we got grants from Eden Prairie's Landscaping for Water Quality 3 years in a row to put in rain gardens. It collects water off of impermeable surfaces such as rooftops, brings it under the sidewalk. Here's a shallow depression. The native plants with their deep roots help the water infiltrate deep into the ground, and the healthy soil helps it be filtered, so it's replenishing aquifers too.
And so you want wet-liking plants here?
Just at the very bottom, because it is meant to completely drain of water within 24 hours. So on the bottom it should be medium to moisture-loving plants, and on the sides that's going to be a more drier habitat. So this is my little woodland garden here. A lot of people think that under dense shade and dry shade, like under a maple, that only hostas can grow, and that is so not true, because here we have bottlebrush grass, we have zigzag goldenrod, we have flowering bellwort, we have Joe Pye weed, we have thimbleberries.
So a lot of flowering plants, even in the shade.
Exactly, and it's just gorgeous, and it thrives here without any supplemental watering.
Marilynn, I was going to ask you a question about how neighbors perceive a garden like this, because there is something about the neat, groomed gardens. And then you were telling me about that you actually got an award from the city. Can you tell us about that?
Exactly. I think the reception of the native plant garden has been fabulous. The city of Eden Prairie has actually supplied grants 3 years in a row for us to landscape for water quality. We've put in 3 rain gardens, a shoreline restoration, and at the end of that all, they gave us in 2016 the Spirit of Eden Prairie Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So as we go to your backyard, it strikes me that some people who want to do a native garden are starting out might feel more comfortable having native plantings in their backyard and like the more groomed look in their front, let's say by the boulevard. What advice do you give to people who are just starting out? And what about choices that they make?
Well, I think either a hedgerow, which is basically a border that's a mixture of plants, flowering plants, grasses, and shrubs, even trees. They're a great way to start because they provide privacy, lots of habitat for birds and other wildlife. Starting small or starting with a rain garden, and it's very easy to find grants to help pay for that, is a great way to start. A lot of bang for your buck as far as adding to the ecosystem services value of your yard.
And did you use seed or did you use plant plugs or?
We started off with plant plugs, but as the mulch breaks down, native plants start reseeding on their own. So that's why I've got such a wonderful dense planting. I have by no means planted all of these plants. The native plants take care of that themselves.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, exactly.
And how about watering? I know we've had a drought here in Minnesota. What about your plants? Have you had to water the native plants or?
So native plants do not really need watering once they're established. Turf grass, on the other hand, needs constant watering, and we have a vegetable garden that needs supplemental watering, but native plants evolved for thousands of years in Minnesota's climate, so they're used to the extremes. Sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's very dry.
How about the maintenance? Does that take a lot of time or?
So maintaining the native plant landscape is surprisingly little work compared to constant mowing, fertilizing, aerating, herbicide applications. We just kind of sit back and watch it grow.
So when I look back at the house right now, it's framed beautifully by your gardens. What was it like when you moved in from the back here?
When we moved in, it was just all barren turf grass. There were no plantings back here at all.
So completely different habitat now.
Exactly. The sound of birds, bees, it's just wonderful.
Let's say you sell the house at some point. A new owner decides to do something different. Would it have been worth it?
Absolutely. It has provided us so much joy and entertainment to see what new flower is come up, what new bee is visiting, what new insects. We've seen just fabulous garden spiders and daddy longlegs and fireflies and insects that you associate with the deep woods or from our childhood and that not many people see anymore.
Well, this has been a wonderful tour, and I really want to thank you for the time. In Habitat Makers, we like to revisit properties to see what's going on, so hopefully we can come back at some point.
That would be fabulous.
Thank you very much.
Gerald.
And thank you for watching this episode of Habitat Makers about what homeowners can do. One of the takeaways I have is we started out looking at the front of the house, and some people might consider that kind of radical to do a native planting on the boulevard in front of the house. That's fine, it's all about choices. You may want to start native plantings in your backyard and see how it goes. You may want to keep your front yard to something different. Again, it's about choices. But what we want to do in this series is to give you the tools and the knowledge and the inspiration of what other habitat makers are doing. Thank you.